Okay, last Wednesday after I made the video, when things were uploading, I feel like the camera is higher than usual because I had it up for the haircut video. But anyway, last Wednesday after I made the video, when I was uploading, mail came and it brought this sweater. I know many times I've recommended an Etsy seller called Love to Knit Doll Clothes. Well, this person also has an eBay store where she also sells her hand knit doll clothes. And this sweater is meant for tonners. And the eBay store, I'm not sure if it's called Chez Abel 2 or Jezebel 2. I'll try to remember to write it down or put a link somewhere. But this sweater was meant for tonner. And I'd been looking at it for a while, and it was the listing was about to expire. So I went ahead and ordered it, and it came, like I said, last Wednesday in the mail. You see there's a little bit of a cable knit detail on the sleeve and also on either side of the opening. Like I said, in the pictures it looked like the sleeves might have been a touch short on tonners, so I knew they'd be really short on these long arms this doll has. Someday I'm going to figure out how to replace this elbow peanut with something smaller. I think that would help. But since she's a Hujo, she has this sort of gear system inside, which I think is detachable. I think if I unstring her, I can pull that out. But basically it means that her arm can go this way, or you can pull it out and twist around and her arm can go this way. Her shoe's falling off. But there's no motion in between unless you're willing to pull it out farther and do weird stuff, which I am not. So for now, this is fine. This is what I expected. Of course, you can always jauntily push the sleeves up, but I don't mind it like this. So, got a sweater for Valeska. And then you've probably seen I posted the haircut video, which I just basically got a bunch of hair gel and some scissors to start hacking on this doll's hair. I don't know if you can see now how much hair gel. If you watch the video, you know I put a lot of hair gel into this doll's hair, and it's pretty solid now. But I do like the way it turned out. I like her short, spiky hair a lot more than her original long hair. And as people pointed out, she still has very 90s face paint because this is a very 90s Barbie. So the skirt actually isn't long enough to be a 90s skirt. To be a proper 90s skirt, it should be ankle length. That's one of the fashions I think people forgot about the 90s, is how really long skirts were trendy. But sporty. Sporty and long. Worn with platform shoes. The body she's on is a really floppy arm, but this shirt actually helps hold it in place. So anyway, spiky doll hair, still spiky, still short. I still like it, and I shared the video, so if anyone else wants to put a whole bunch of hair gel into a Barbie's hair and hack it all off, you might be able to achieve a result like this. So I haven't really done this kind of hairstyle a lot, but it tends to work out. I'm one of those people, the fact that I haven't done a thing before doesn't usually stop me from doing it to varying degrees of success. And then, that Made to Move body I got for $7 last week. I gave to this Mattel Pocahontas head, which has been on a few different just articulated fashionistas bodies for a while. One that had a chewed up hand, then I was able to replace them with a chewed up hand, but now I have her on the Made to Move body, and I will eventually get her rerouted. I have about 10 dolls right now who I want to reroute, so it could be a while. It just seems to me, the way my brain is working, that rerouting is a winter and springtime thing, not a summer thing, but we'll see. Who knows? I could end up rerouting tonight if the mood hits me, but probably not. But then last Thursday, I did go to a thrift store. And I did find things. I spent $4. I did not buy on the table of random toys, where it's either everything you can fit into a bag for $2.99 or 49 cents an item. I did not buy a Monster High Abby Abominable, who not only still had her limbs, but also had her clothes and her shoes. I thought about buying it just to keep it from getting destroyed by just being in the bin and kids playing with it and pulling at it and dropping it, but I thought no, there's no reason for me to have this doll. So I put her in one of the bags and wrapped it very carefully around her and just put her on the table and walked away. I mean, I had other things on the table, which I'll get to. But I walked away from the Abby, and like 5 minutes later I walked past the table and there was a kid with her mom. The kid was so excited that she found this Monster High doll. So I'm going to say I did good. But what I did find on the table, there was an Ever After High Ashlyn, I think, whose lower left leg was snapped off. Now, whoever had owned it before had tried to tape it back together. There was a bunch of washi tape wrapped around the knee, but the leg was gone, the lower leg was gone, nowhere to be found. I looked, I dug. I didn't dig as thoroughly as sometimes I've dug on those random toy bins, but I did dig some and I didn't find it. But I went ahead and like I said, I left that Abby because I knew a kid could play with it, but I decided to get the broken Ever After High body because what kid's gonna want a broken doll? So after I got it home, I started messing around with stuff. And I'm trying to decide if I want to say this now or later. I'll go ahead and say it now. My exciting life. What order do I tell you my doll messing stories in? So I started messing around with it, and I pulled out that Create a Monster set that I got months ago. And I decided to see if I could fuse those parts, put those parts under the Ever After High body. So I drilled out the peg that was left in the leg and put the cam leg in, and it fit really well, fit fine. And then I very carefully pried the upper arm open on the other side and took the elbow assembly out. Because it wasn't broken, but if you've ever broken open an Ever After High body, you know those arms are not meant to come out. But the plastic wasn't very well fused together, so I was able to get it out. And then I closed the arm back up with plastic weld, that plastic cement weld. That stuff, it's like acetone's cousin. It's not quite as aggressive as acetone. It will melt the plastics temporarily and you can squish it together, and then once it's all evaporated, the plastics re-solidify. And so I got her upper arm put back together, and then I went to put the cam elbow peg in, and it was a little narrow and a little too long, so I took my drill and I drilled out inside the arm just enough to get the cam peg to fit, and then I wrapped it with Teflon tape to bulk it up and put that in and it fit. And of course I did not want the Ever After High head on it, so I had an Ibitsu tan head that Emmy Moon gave me a while ago. I had that on an Ever After High body before, but I decided I just didn't like the Ever After High body, so I took the head off and the body's gone. But I put the Ibitsu head back on that body, and this is the combination I ended up with. These skeleton Create a Monster parts. They have perfectly fine elbow and knee articulation, and the tan Ibitsu head. I used the Dremel to enlarge the neck opening inside the Ibitsu head, because if you're familiar with them, you know they have really tiny, I call them Japanese style neck hole openings, but just because a lot of Volks and Ibitsu and action figures have just little tiny pegs, not the big flanges that Barbies have. So I enlarged the inside of the head to put it on a Mattel neck connector. And it was very floppy, so I actually have one of Chris's bread tag methods in here, and you can see it's really firm and holds positions well. Of course, I will have to take it off again when I'm ready to give her hair, unless I just do something like flocking or something on her. Because she's never had hair before, but you know, they have the molding lines in the head to guide you about where to put hairlines and part lines and things. So I don't know when it will work on her again, but I like this combination of skeleton and body a lot more than just the plain Ever After High body. So that's the one doll I got off the random toy table and what happened to it. And then the other doll from the random toy table was, this is the first thing I saw when I walked up to the table actually, it was a clone doll who had this body, which if you're familiar with clone dolls, you know this kind of body is usually found on a Cindy or Tammy type clone head. At least every encounter I've had with a body like this before has been a Cindy or Tammy type head. This one had more of a Barbie type head, sort of. And obviously it's not on here anymore because I was messing around with doll bodies, and the head actually fit and sort of matched a Project MC squared body. So this is her. And there's fuzz stuck to her hair. You see her hair is fried. I'm going to rotate it. And you see the back, the rooting. You see there's a line, a part line all the way to the back, but no hair. And I'm not sure, when I first picked her up I thought maybe she'd originally been a bubble cut, but with this short weirdness in the back, I don't know. Maybe she was a bubble cut and somebody else cut her hair more. So this is another doll I will probably reroute, but right now I don't know if I want to give her this more white hair or give her more of a fantasy color hair. And I would love to do that thing again like I did with the Project MC squared body that the Gen A head is using, where I cut off the bottom, then cut an articulated Barbie in half and fuse the Barbie legs and hips and pelvis onto this body. Because I only have a few pairs of shoes that fit this, and I don't like the proportions, but I like them when they're set up like that. But I will hold her up close so you can see what fabulously judgmental clone face she has. I hope I'm holding her right. Hold on, let me rattle the camera and, oops, flip this around. So, let me see. There she is. Right. Very, very judgmental. And also, it's in very good shape. Her lips might be faded, or they might always have been very, very pale pink. So, I was happy to have found this clone and only paid 49 cents for her, and then put her on a body that I had that fits well, and she can have some articulation, and she will eventually get better hair. I have to turn this back around. It's really distracting me now. Of course, I'm sure I will be holding more dolls in front of the camera because that's what I do, but most of these other dolls I'm going to have you be able to look up. I know I have posted pictures of the clone, but I just wanted to get that clone's glorious cloniness on camera. So then I walked back to the toy section, and there was a bundle of Barbies that was just, you know, regular 5-point articulation blonde Barbies, and a few loose 5-point articulation blonde Barbies. And 5-point, you know, that's neck, shoulders, hips. There was a Wizard of Oz Tin Man from the 90s who had obviously been very played with. I don't think he had paint rubs, but his clothes, the silver coating on the synthetic tricot base of the clothes was just completely flaked off and nasty looking. And they were asking $4 for him. So even though I'm influenced by John immensely, and John has been getting all of the Wizard of Oz dolls, I stepped back from this dude. But then I saw a bundle of Barbies, 3 Barbies for 99 cents. And the first thing that I noticed in the bundle was 1997 Tree Trimming Barbie, which I've been looking on eBay the night before trying to find a reference for something. I was looking at 1997 Barbies, and she kept coming up, and I kept thinking, oh, haha, I had this doll in 97. Wow, wouldn't it be fun to have this hideous Christmas sweater again? But then I didn't think about it because like the cheapest one I saw was $5, but then I walk into that store and there she is. So I grabbed the bundle thinking, well, 99 cents just for her would be good. And another thing, I mean, not only do we have the hideous sweater and the velour leggings because she is from the 90s, the late 90s, but also she has the Superstar sculpt, but with late 90s screening, late 90s paint style, which that really changes the character of the Superstar to be so 1990s-y. So I don't mind having this doll again, but it's just the sweater. It's hilarious. But then I turned the bundle over, and there was a 1975 ballerina Barbie in excellent condition. The worst thing wrong with her, she had some scuffs on her legs, some, dirt on her legs, and she still had her original rubber bands in her hair, which after being, 40 years old, they were not in pretty shape. So I picked those out and replaced them with modern clear elastics, which I know those will deteriorate too, but I think they just dry up and fall apart. They don't stick and turn into a gooey mess like the rubber bands do. There's still some gooey mess on her hairline back here from the rubber bands. So I had this doll when I was little. I had this doll in my 20s. I had this doll when I was 5. Somebody gave her to me as a present when I was in kindergarten, which, as a grown-up now, when I try to figure out stories and explanations for everything, I figure since this doll's from 75 and I was in kindergarten from 79 to 80, somebody probably had found a huge sale of them, like in 75 or 76, and stocked up on them to give out as toys over the years for presents. That's my theory. Maybe not. But I got one of these, and this was the only twist and turn face I'd ever seen as a kid, and I thought she was odd looking, because, like I said, I was a kid in the Superstar era. But obviously, I like this sculpt better now. When I was a kid, though, I just remember squishing her face down like this to make her be mean. So she is in really good shape. The only problem she really has is there's this discoloration on her fingers, and it goes all the way through, so I think it's something in the plastic. It's actually been sitting on the windowsill for a couple of days with 10% benzoyl peroxide on it, but we had storms for a few days, so she didn't get a lot of sunlight. But she's gotten some, and the brown hasn't faded at all, so I think that is in the plastic. So I was very happy to find this doll in the bundle. Also, I had this doll all through childhood, and she was basically fell victim to some of my earliest customizing attempts in my 20s, so that's why I don't have any parts of my original ballerina Barbie anymore. So I was happy to find this and this in the same bundle. So the third doll in there, it's like, a lot of times I won't get bundles of dolls because I don't like all the dolls, but these two for 99 cents, so worth it. I didn't mind about the third doll. Well, I'll show you her in a moment. She's a 1992 My First Barbie with the Teresa sculpt. And she was wearing more or less this, which is 1973 or 4 Sweet 16 Barbie dress, which originally had white synthetic knit ruffles around the sleeves, the armholes, which that was just in horrible shape. So I cut that off and then restitched the shoulder seams, because the shoulder seams and the ruffle seams were all the same. So cutting off the ruffles cut off the ends of the seams, and it started unraveling. But so it's in pretty good shape. So I was happy to get that dress. And like I said, at first I was not too keen on the doll inside it. But then I looked at her again and I remembered I'd been kind of wanting a really very 1990s, early 1990s kind of Barbie, just so I could take 1990s aesthetic pictures, probably tongue-in-cheek aesthetic pictures, but still take aesthetic pictures every once in a while. So I took another look at this doll and realized that actually, yes, I do like her face paint. As far as being an early 90s doll, it's a ballerina doll. She has white plastic legs with molded on shoes. Not ballerina, it's My First Barbie ballerina style doll. But I have dressed her in a sweatshirt that I made. This is the one that I shared the pattern on. And I'm so used to dolls that have arms that can swing out. Even this doll has arms that can swing out. But this is just a palm to rear doll. No swinging out arms, no side to side legs. And this is a 1990s Barbie skirt that I thrifted. But I really like her. She has bright pink lipstick and pastel purple eyeshadow, but her eyes are like pine green and ochre. It's like as unpastel as possible. I haven't done anything with her hair besides. Again, she had the original rubber band in it, and after 20 years the rubber band wasn't in good shape either, so I just put her little top knot back up. So actually, in retrospect, I was happy to get this doll too. I don't know if I would have bought her on her own if she had been only 99 cents herself, but these two I definitely would have bought for 99 cents each. I might even have paid $1.99 for them, but I didn't have to, so it doesn't matter. And then I walked to the back of the store where the crafts and fabrics are, and I found this yarn. which I've been seeing so many people make yarn wigs by brushing this stuff out. Although this is a polyester blend, and I've since found that it's acrylic polyester, that pure acrylic tends to do better than acrylic polyester blends. So I brushed this stuff out really fast, and I cut out like 18 inches, and when I brushed it out, it was only about, 2 or 3 inches long. But still, I decided that Dress Me doll that Susan had sent, that I put on the Barbie Articulated Fashionistas Barbie body and showed you last week in the cam wig, I decided I would try putting this on her as hair. So I started by snipping a whole bunch of really, really short pieces, and I coated her scalp in glue, and then stuck the short pieces in the glue, and then let that dry for a few hours, and then when I do this, I put on way more snipped up yarn than there is glue, and I just squish it on, and after a few hours I brush off all the extra fluff. And sometimes I'll try to glue more layers on if the back of the doll's head is flat and I want some volume, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then I had made the glued wefts with this, and so I decided to give her sort of an undercut look, and here she is. You see her hair is... The wefts are only a very small part, but... So, I like the way it turned out. I like this hair a lot more than the Create a Monster wig. I don't have a name for her yet. I'm not sure. I'm not good with naming dolls. Generally, I just name dolls to give them distinct file names, because I'm not good with names. I tend to forget people's names. But I feel like she needs an appropriate name. And then also in the arts and crafts and cloth and sewing section, I found this pattern, which is copyright 1991, and who boy, you can tell. But I really like the idea of this dress. In the summer, maybe not so much, it would need to be short sleeves, but in the summer I like to wear loose things, and dresses are better because the fewer places that clothes touch my body, the cooler I am. And so I used it to make this that I'm wearing today. And yes, this is that cloth that Susan sent with the backwards printed Halloween. So as you can see, it is not backwards because this is the printed side. So I sewed it with the unprinted side out so that the words Halloween could be the correct direction, so it doesn't just look right in a mirror selfie. And I didn't have quite enough of this or this to make the pockets, because yes, it has pockets. So I used some of the other cloth that Susan sent, the very 80s splat cloth, for the pockets. And I wore this today running errands, and it is comfortable and cool, and it was fairly easy to make, especially since I have a button holder, so I can just zip buttonholes out with no problem. And I also have the kind of foot that you put on your sewing machine to hold a button in place so you can zigzag through the holes. So buttons are super fast and super easy. There's no way that I'm doing the pantsuits, but I'll probably do more of the dress. So this test obviously worked out pretty well. So today I went to Walmart again to grab another $7 Made to Move. Had a bit of a panic, walked into the toy aisle, and they're just starting to reset it for Christmas. So all the clearance stuff was gone, but I found it in the garden center where they're moving all the clearance toys for now, which usually is just after Christmas they move all the clearance toys to the garden center. But, so I found these. There were 5 left. I walked around with 2 for a while, then I decided no. When I bought one of these last week, I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I found a head for it. So this one, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, so I don't need 2. And also, you know, if they hang around and go on clearance steeper than $7, then maybe I'll buy the arm load then. So, and this is another one. Her shin guards are inside her socks, which I didn't notice that on the last one I got until I was about ready to open her. As you see, the official art on the back, the shin guards don't go inside the socks. I noticed that there was one of the dolls still in the store had the shin guard outside the socks, now the others have the shin guards inside the socks. So, then I did today go to, well, okay, this is not doll related. I would have done On Saturday morning, that's when I was messing around with like putting the skeleton parts on the Ever After High body and putting that clone head on the MC squared body. And I was getting ready to start sewing this on Saturday. It's a beautiful day, sunny, light breeze, cool. I mean, it didn't get warm enough for the air conditioner to kick in until like about 11 o'clock or 12. So I had the windows open and, heard the birds and the bugs, and then heard a big clunk as some poor young lady, it was one of her first times driving on her own, came around the corner and took out our mailbox. But our mailbox fought back, and they called their insurance person, who called us to say that they would reimburse us for the mailbox replacement, it totaled their Honda. I mean, it's an older Honda. I know older cars get totaled easier because they are not worth as much. They're not worth it to fix. So there were pieces of Honda all across our lawn. Poor kid, she freaked out. But so basically all of Saturday afternoon turned into, what are we going to do about our mailbox day? Driving around trying to find we definitely wanted, this was like the third time the mailbox had been hit, and the other times it happened in the middle of the night or we weren't home. We just find like parts of taillights on the ground and a dent in the mailbox, but the post was fine. So we wanted another really sturdy metal post like this. And husband found one today at a hardware store by where he works. So hopefully we'll have our mailbox put back together soon. So that's why I didn't get more stuff done on the weekend, because mailbox. So I just wanted to tell that. That's just life, So today I did go to the thrift store too. I know I said I wouldn't and I shouldn't, and I didn't find anything on the toy table. I didn't find any cloth. And I went over to the toy aisle, and there was a woman on the aisle. She was thoroughly looking at all the toys. She's older than me, and had her cart, and I could see some Barbie-sized Disney princesses in the cart. And she picked another doll out and put it in the cart, and I'm thinking, oh, competition. And so I was looking at the shelves, and the guy comes out of the back with a cartload of stuff to put on the shelves, and she turns around and says, oh, may I take that? So at least she was polite to that guy, and she grabs this bag full of Barbies and puts them right in her cart. And okay, I think, all right, I see which way she's facing, so she's already looked at the part of the aisle, part of the shelves that I'm looking at. So I walked around her, and then I looked in her cart. I wasn't subtle about it either. I leaned over and looked to see what was in the bag. The first thing I noticed when she picked it up was that tall fashionista with the Asian face. And then when I first looked in her cart, I saw, there's a Disney Snow White with rooted lashes, so a nicer Snow White. But then there was also a fully dressed, articulated fashionista's Ken with brown hair. And that gave me a bit of a, that would have been nice to have him. But I couldn't see anything. I didn't know if there was anything else in the bag. So who knows, I might have ultimately talked myself out of that had I had the chance. Later I noticed she also had a bag full of Barbie clothes in her cart. So I'm on the other side of the cart where she hasn't been yet. And I turn around and I immediately see this. And my first thought was a thrill of nostalgia and recognition, because this is a Get Real girl. In about 2001, Get Real girls were in Toys R Us, and I saw them and I brought one home, and that was my introduction to articulated dolls. However, when I went home to try to look them up on the internet was not much back then. It seemed good, but compared to what we have now, no. I wasn't finding anything about the Get Real girls. I was, however, finding stuff about something called a Psy girl or a cool girl. So that led me off in the path of female action figures for a few years. But, so I had this thrill of nostalgia. It's like, oh, my first articulated doll/action figure was a Get Real girl. I mean, I would eventually come to realize that their articulation is not that great. It's kind of set up like Liv's articulation, only Liv has better articulation. But still, there was nostalgia, and she has all her gear, and there's fuzz from Purple Yarn on my arm. She has all her gear, and their gear is really high quality, and she looks like she's never been played with, and I can see her shoes in there, and there's, like I said, their stuff is really nice. And there's the famous Battle to Get Real Girls had really fancy backpacks, and yes, all right, that's cool, I can get her. But then my second thought, almost immediately after the recognition and nostalgia, this is Gabby, by the way, was my next thought was, I can't let that lady over there buy every doll in the store. So it's probably the worst reason to buy a doll or a figure, but hey, I gotta get Real Girl out of it. And I will open her later and put her pictures on Instagram and everywhere else, and try not to go to the thrift store next week. Thanks for watching.